Chapter 6. General Tegus stood tall in his study on the second floor. In front of the floor-to-ceiling windows, staring sternly at the huge dark red sun in the sky. Besides the ball and the setting sun, the Yinshan Mountains were burnt to deep purple by the sunset. Pretty cliffs. General Tegus cropped, stiff hair shines. The purpose is silvery white, like ice that has not melted for thousands of years on a steep mountain. Snow, the pair are still as dark as a teenager and have not faded. The eyes seem to be the overlapping of countless deep nights, thin and hale. There are several deep vertical wrinkles on his face, which are like swords. The scar-like wrinkles not only do not make him look old, but made his valiant countenance sharp and masculine. He wore the body in the military uniform of the general school is straight, and when viewed from the back, a handsome and beautiful young cavalry warrior like a poplar tree. The Russian government built especially for high-ranking cadres by the communist authorities. Style residential buildings located in the north of Hohhot. Special. Guth's two-story residential building is located in the senior cadre residential building. On a high slope at the edge of the group, the window of the study on the second floor of the building. The entrance is facing the wilderness on the northwest outskirts of Hohhot. Since 1959, General Tegus, because of the rejection rate, leading the Inner Mongolia Independent Cavalry Division to suppress religious riots in Tibet and was arrested. Since he was discharged from the military, he has had plenty of time to stand in the study. Watch the process of the sun sinking in front of the floor-to-ceiling windows. He found the day shows a different modality almost every day. Sometimes through milky mist, the setting sun like a huge scarlet tear. Beads vibrate sensitively in the silent sky. When it diffuses, the heliosphere seems to be blown in the howling wind. Cracked, dry, and hard blood, thick twilight mists cover. In the dusk of the horizon, the setting sun is like a mass of condensed gray-blue. Bronze flames in the mist of color. In the original, the setting sun is so enchanting and gorgeous that there is a dazzling erratic beauty when sinking into the deep black of the sky. When there is a thunderstorm cloud, the heliosphere will turn dark purple, resembling a star in a beast's heart burns in raging sorrow. During the black storm, the heliosphere presents a slightly pale yellowish color. Color, like the ruins of a withered golden epic, on the horizon. On a sunny day dyed with dark green, the sunset always looks special. The dignified and fiery mood seems to be kissed with the red love. Kiss the bleak, vast horizon, yellow-leaved autumn. There are often long silver snake-like clouds, twisting and swaying, deep. Wraps affectionately around a giant golden heliosphere that looks like a setting sun. In wild waving long winds, in the sky as a glorious masculinity. Dance. Almost every dusk, General Tegus seemed eager. Like a teenager waiting for a sympathizer to date, he stands in front of the window, welcoming. Pick up the sunset. General Tegus shines the male with his jet black, sexually sharp eyes, stroking, kissing that charming sunset. His ecstasy made one feel that the general June seemed to be staring at the graceful beauty from that sunken day. In the ball, General Tegus has a long-term relationship with the fate of the Mongolian nation. The enlightenment of life philosophy, the fate of Mongolia should not be in mark. The political ideal of thinking about the so-called world unity pales in the dark shadow. Land fades away, where Mongols' fate ends, handsome. The beautiful life casts a brilliant sunset, and the soul of Mongolia should. When entering nothingness with the wild dance of the male, the fate of the Mongolian nation should be. It should be a philosophy about the withering of beauty. Although many Mongols, especially some, or the merger of Inner and Outer Mongolia to rebuild the great Mongol Empire. The Mongols who were the target of political conspiracies privately referred to Tegu. General C is regarded as the spiritual leader of the Mongolian nation, but Tegu, General Stanley, never took part in those political intrigues. In one sense it was because he had an extreme distaste for politics. He felt that if one entered into political intrigue, one had to use political dominance masks true feelings. It means having to make oneself. When it becomes false, when it becomes deceitful, even mean, joyful. You can't laugh wildly, and you can't cry when you are sad. At the same time, to achieve the purpose of political conspiracy must also be in the officialdom. To gain power step by step, and according to this logic, in 1959, it should not have refused to carry out the suppression of Tibetan religious sects by leading troops. Insurrection order, for that disqualified him from the military and the military. Rights are essential to the achievement of political ends, in short, participation in. Political intrigue must be paid for by living in falsehood, but yes, he is not willing to pay such a price anyway, or said that his personality made him unable to afford to have to. False life is assumed. He can't give up showing real emotion. Rights, not even for noble political purposes. Because, for, he is sure, if long accustomed to hypocrisy and deceit, even if noble political goals are ultimately achieved, he will. For forgetting and losing the true feelings connected with his flesh and blood. Feel regretful. General Tigis was unwilling to participate to rebuild the great Mongol Empire. Another, deeper reason for the political conspiracy aimed at. In his philosophy. From countless sundowns to the sky. In the pale and empty silence that presents itself, he deeply understands. Realize the emptiness of life. With his sad and desolate feelings, he truly recognized that the meaning of life lies only in the beauty of the moment before nothingness. It is only to dance into the void with wild dance steps burning with beautiful poetry. Nothing, only in the blood that sacrificed for the ideal of life's beauty. Die nothingness red. Therefore, he cannot accept rebuilding Daemon. The political conception of the ancient empire, because the Mongol heroic epic has created an incomparable masculine beauty that has made history spring. Out of the splendid moment, has fulfilled a great destiny. Meaning in reenacted drama is tedious, even if the beautiful drama for which we weep every day must be the same in the reenactment. Boring. If General Tigis had any political hopes, G just wants to ignite wildfires with his true emotions. Politicize the Communist Party that stifles Mongolian culture into black ashes. Jin, then, on the plateau for the Mongol heroic ghost. Soul, find a vast bronze-colored cemetery. And he is willing to do. A tombkeeper, every dusk, to the burning green and white. The setting sun in the birch forest bows down to worship from the ancient age of wildflowers like clouds. The Mongolian song and dance that floated in the middle of the month was used as a sacrifice to the bloodstained. The splendor of the flying male in the epic of clouds, he would let his life quietly turns into a distant requiem, with purple. The sunset glow falls in the desolate cemetery, falls in the swaying, on the undulating waves of silver-gray grass. If this wish does not come true, now, he will use his life to cast a sad and beautiful death as the fate of the beautiful Mongolia that has withered. The final sacrifice. The gray-blue twilight covered the bright red sunset. Tegu. General Stein left the window, went to the fireplace, and sat on a sofa. Sit down. The nurse had lit a charcoal fire in the hearth. The charcoal made of birch stalks emits a faint light during burning. A light wilderness fragrance. The ruby-colored charcoal fire envoy. Clusters of dark blue sparks flickered in General Gus' eyes. Like hard flint struck by red lightning. This pair looks like deep black eyes that will never fade. With sexual steepness and noble eyes, this pair is always unruly. Eyes staring straight ahead humbly put Tigis in the communist. How many bosses have been offended in the officialdom? Those bureaucrats seem to be born to only like the submissive and flattering eyes of an obedient bitch. However, this pair of eyes has won countless beauties for Tigis. The woman's fiery and lingering love, even though the years have passed by as handsome. after the crevice-like wrinkles of the rock were carved into his face, still. Some charming girls cast erotic beauty into these eyes. Concentrate. At this moment, General Tigis put his aching legs. Reach for the fireplace. He gazed at the glowing coals in the hearth of the fireplace. With the fire, the eyes gradually became softer. Since I was young and often sleeping in the ice and snow, he suffered from severe rheumatism, and now, even in summer, the legs feel heavy and cold. Do not. However, he didn't sit in front of the fireplace primarily for warmth. 5 years ago, General Tigis spoke unquestionably to the architect of his house said, "I want a fireplace, a must." At that time, the designer showed a surprised and helpless expression. He does not understand. Why should repair a pre-20th century European house in a modern house? The only fireplace in the building. However, he dared not be dissatisfied. The stern-faced general's request. It is said that the teacher designed it according to the style of a 19th century oil painting. This fireplace, just the top of the fireplace hearth, follows Tigis. According to the requirements, it is built into a circular arc shape, like the dome of a yurt. After the sun went down, General Tigis turned off the lights in the study lamp. A man sits silently before the fireplace in the dark, until late at night. Oh, the fire in this hearth looks like the tunnel in the yurt. Red cow dung fire. General Tigis murmured silently to himself. In a word, deep in the dark eyes, a piece of carnation floats. Tenderness. He seemed to see the twin crystals behind the cow dung fire again. Eyes shining like bright stars in the light blue smoke. It was as if I heard the soul-stirring singing again. The eagle flies. Come, bring me a vast blue sky. The eagle will fly away again. Yes, bring a piece of dilapidated sunset glow. Heart of the eagle, in Liao. In the distant blue sky, my heart, in the broken sunset. Inside. Tigis was the son of a Mongol prince. When I was young, his father sent him to Shenyang to study. Later, Tigis also entered a military academy in Japan. In the late 1930s, I heard that after news of the Japanese army's invasion of Inner Mongolia, Tigis left Japan. Ben, back in his hometown, held the battleground with a group of Mongolian youths. Knife stepped on the violent Mongolian horse and disappeared on the banks of the Arguna River, on the vast grassland. From then on, the man with eagle eyes. The Mongolian cavalry led by young people became the life force of the Japanese army. Dreaded enemy. Japanese soldiers privately called them leopards. Team, because when they charged, they always gave off the ferociousness of a prairie leopard. Whistling. When the Japanese army cleaned the battlefield, they also discovered that the deadly wounds of the Mongolian cavalry were all in the front. Chest or forehead, not Jiang Shui like they fought with. Like the Han soldiers in good troops, the wounds are often on the back. Not long after, perhaps only because the flag of the Communist Party also resembled. Like the Shandan flowers on the grassland, it is red, and Tigis took his cavalry joined the army led by the Communist Party. At that time, he still didn't understand that the Shandan flowers on the grassland must be as bright red as the blood of beasts, but the red ones are not necessarily the mountains on the prairie. Danhua. In a brutal encounter outnumbered, Tegu. A small group of cavalry led by C was scattered by the Japanese army. Burdened. After the seriously injured Tigis broke out of the siege, he lay prone on the horseback. Lost consciousness. The unmanned war horse galloped across the wilderness. One day, a lonely Mongolia parked under a hill in the evening. Bag front. When Tigis woke up from his coma, he found himself lying next to a red-hot pile of a cow dung fire. The wounds on the body have been. It was bandaged up. The deep and beautiful singing voice is like a winding thread. The sunset glow of the wind-eroded cliffs wafted by his ears. Cow dung on fire. Wisps of light blue smoke rise, swaying in a charming manner. Behind the lingering smoke, a pair of clear and quiet girls' eyes stared at him affectionately. He felt that the lavender night. The xiao-like singing voice seems to come from the depths of those eyes. Tegus have been unable to remember the girl's face, only. Those eyes that can sing have passed through the long years, gazing with attachment. Looked into his soul. At that time, although Tegus already had a beautiful young wife and a little boy despite his covered with scarlet scars, he is still in love with the girl. Although they only loved for one night, they loved so deeply. Long, like the constant wind in the vast grassland night, from the dense birch grove drifts to red sage swaying day. Sighed. After more than a year, Tegus came to the yurt again. Forward. Hearing his hooves, a yellow wormwood. The old woman tremblingly walked out of the low wooden door of the yurt, dry. A baby wrapped in old sheepskin was cradled on the thin chest. Old. The woman's dull eyes turned to the blue sky, her voice faded like a pale, staccato wind, said to Tegus, she dies. Yes, my daughter was killed by Japanese soldiers, my eyes can't see anything to tears are shed for my daughter. There must be a fire in the eyes of men, and fire in the eyes of women. There are tears, the tears dry up, and the eyes are blind. However, I know you're the injured leopard from last year, I can smell your smell. This is my daughter's baby for you, I call him Amu Ancient Lang, Note 1. Because her mother said before she died, as long as Mongolian eagles are flying in the blue sky, our grasslands, it won't be taken over by others. The old woman staggered and moved her skinny body. Hold the baby's hand forward. Wait for Tegus to take the baby. Then, the old woman took out a piece of snow-white hair from the breast of the Mongolian robe. Hada, on which there are a few blooming poppies that are eye-catching. Blood. The old woman groped with her cold hands and hung the kata on the special. On Gus's neck, he said with difficulty, before my daughter died, I used this. Tiao Hada was stained with her blood, it flowed from her chest. Blood, she wants me to dedicate this kata to you for her. Nothing was left, she drifted away like the wind, leaving only a few flowers. Blood flowers. After speaking, the old woman's body slowly slid down on the. Among the weeds, it looks like a wisp of gray mist that is withering. Tegus gave a mudulin to his wife to raise him. That heart that has been hardened by the bloody life of war, too. Amu Guling has a special kind of tenderness. 6 years ago, not long after Gus was dismissed from the military, his eldest son, Batel, brought. He led a Mongolian girl across the border and fled to Outer Mongolia. Rear. Come, Tegus heard, his son was killed by wolves as soon as he crossed the border. The group killed her, and the girl who escaped with her was taken by Outer Mongolia. After being repatriated by the Bureau, they were also imprisoned in a labor reform camp to serve hard labor. Since then, Tegus has devoted all his love to his 2 sons. Amu Guling was alone. In a letter to his father before Amu Gulen returned this time, said that he was going to settle in the south after the wedding. Idea. Although this surprised Tegus, he was even angrier. Angry, but yesterday Tegus still asked Cessna to take his a silver gray Volga car, go to the station to meet Would Ancient Lang. Tegus originally decided to sit in the study and wait for Amugu. Lin came to see him, however, when he heard the sound of a car driving into the yard. Afterward, Tegus walked down the stairs quickly and came to the door of the residential building. On the stone steps he is looking forward to, his son will be the same as before, hi. Calls to him, with wide strides briskly, toward. He comes. At that time, Tegus was standing on the stone steps with his hands behind his back. Clenching his hands excitedly, he was about to use his hands, which are used to holding swords. His thick, bony hands firmly hugged his son's shoulders. He suddenly felt full of confidence that he would be able to dispel his son's divorce. The idea of opening Inner Mongolia to settle in the south. However, when Amu Galen got out of the car with slow movements, when he saw the gloomy Amu Galen who was trying to avoid staring at him, when he saw Mudgeling in order not to, the charming southern lady lagged while walking ridiculously awkwardly. Tigis suddenly felt a rush as he walked towards him with tiny steps. Sharp, scarlet pain. Is this the one who used to wear the pointed Mongolian boots? The boy who wrestled with the bull. This is the one that was almost. The kid who bit the throats of guys many years older than him? Just because the young man called him a stinky man. Son. General Tigis thought painfully at the time, a word. Without saying anything, he left the cold back to Amu Galen and returned to his study. Until now, it has been a Mudgeling. It was the night of the second day back, and Tigis hadn't had sex with his son yet. Talked. At this time, the door of the study room was gently pushed open. Tigis from. The footsteps are as light as the wind blowing over the red leaves in the wilderness. At the sound, I immediately felt that it was my daughter who was coming. Cessna, go quickly. Go to Tigis' sofa and snuggle your soft and warm body. On his father's chest, he gently kissed the red lips on Tigis' face. Vertical wrinkles like scars carved by swords, guiltily and sadly. Said, from now on, I will never go outside at night. It was to accompany Amu Guling and Bai Hongshiwe on an outing. Later, late. I will never leave you alone at home again. Oh no, I'm not alone, the memories are with me. Young people are lonely. Tigis stroked Krishna's bushy hair, like touching a piece of the rich night, with deep words. Tune, said. No, I want to accompany you to remember, I want to be with you. Meditate. When you meditate, your heart beats so hard, like a pounding. The echo on the stone wall, I like to hear the sound of this heartbeat. Sound. Cessna put her ears to Tigis' cliff-like chest. To say it softly. You are too young to remember. You need to live with real emotion. Only by living with true feelings. To have memories that make people no longer lonely. In the future, you will. Everything will disappear in time, only the unforgettable. Emotion will always be with you and make your memory become hard and become beautiful. Tigis gazed at the red treasure in the fireplace. Stone-colored charcoal fire said in a deep voice. Cessna feels her father's. There is a moving sense of desolation in the voice, which is a kind of face in the face of. It will only be produced when red leaves are falling all over the sky in the gray-blue wind. Feel. However, I still feel that you are too lonely, only contemplating. Accompanying you. You should talk to a Mudgeling, I know. Said you miss him very much. Cessina seemed a little timid to say the last. In the last sentence, she was timid because she was afraid that this topic would make. Father is sad. No, don't talk. Tigis' voice suddenly became cold. Yes, he added sternly, pushing Cessna away gently. Sentence, you don't care about this matter. The sky outside the window has turned dark blue, and only Gao Yuan. There is still a wisp of cloud in the sky, the light golden afterglow of the sunset glow. Through the tall floor-to-ceiling windows of the study, you can see the top of the museum building. Silhouette of the galloping horse carved in silver gray. Cessna leaves. Behind the study, Tigis' solemn gaze was like a black. The sunset falls on the cut of the horse statue that seems to be galloping in the night sky. On the shadow. This silver and white marble bench on the top of the museum building. Horse statue, one of the few representations in buildings in Hohhot. One of the spatial images of the Mongolian national style. Therefore, the statue, like a mirage in the desert, attracting the dry eyes of travelers. All the same, it often makes the Mongols gaze affectionately. In 1959, General Tigis was withdrawn to Inner Mongolia to ride independently. Shortly after he was appointed commander-in-chief, the authorities did not seek his opinion. He was appointed as the deputy of the Inner Mongolia Political Consultative Conference. Chairman. The Political Consultative Conference is mainly called by the Communist Party, composed of some so-called political groups of democratic parties, among which there are also a small number of intellectuals in the Communist Party who were deposed for various reasons. Celebrities. One of the most basic conditions for the existence of those democratic parties. The condition is that they must sell more than the organization of the Communist Party itself. Praise the wisdom and greatness of the Communist Party vigorously. We must resolutely safeguard the Communist Party. The autocratic politics of the one-party dictatorship of the Communist Party. The flattery of the courtiers around the king. The Communist Party allows these Democrats. Pi exists. On the one hand, it is to increase the role of touting oneself. On the other hand, it is to show their democratic nature. In Tigis' vision, the members of the Political Consultative Conference are not. He is nothing more than a small pet raised by a group of communists, and he is ashamed to be with this. Some people. So, despite being appointed to the Political Consultative Conference vice chairman, he rarely stepped into the luxury prepared for his office. The few things he did in his position. One of the things that have to do with official business is to repeatedly report to the relevant authorities. Propose a sculpture of galloping horses atop a museum building. Picture. One day, an artist who was in charge of designing the statue came to. At the home of General Tigis, he told him in a desperate tone that several design proposals were rejected by the building department's political censors. The artist's initial design plan is to make the statue's horse head. Heading south, political censors argue, it's reminiscent of the history of the Mongolian cavalry's invasion of the Central Plains. The head is changed to face the north, which in turn is believed to have pursued Inner and Outer Mongolia. The tendency to merge, because Outer Mongolia is in the north, had to let the galloping horse face the east, and this design scheme was also rejected. The reason is that the east is the capital of Beijing and the Mongolian horseshoes soar over Beijing. Finally, artist. There was no choice but to turn the horse's head towards the west, but this. He was accused of being suspected of yearning for Western capitalist countries. After listening to the artist's narration, General Tigis said angrily, then let the horse's head point to the blue sky. When the artist talked with General Tigis, Amogu Leng was also there. At that time, he was only 17 years old. The next day, AMU Gu Lang excitedly handed over a watercolor painting he had drawn overnight to Tigis. On the screen is a horse that seems to be leaping into the blue sky. Horse. Later, the artist took AMU Guling's painting as the original, typed and designed the stone sculpture of the galloping horse at the top of the museum. General Tigis suddenly withdrew his gaze from the night sky at the Mercedes-Benz. With the eyes of the horse statue, he stood up quickly and walked quickly to the wide. Next to the desk, turn on the lamp, and then, from the desk drawer, carefully take out a box made of copper. Tigis. The general opened the copper box slowly, as if afraid of disturbing something sleeping. Inside the copper, a box appeared with a line full of the blood-stained white howdah. The blood on the howdah is so gorgeous. Broken souls like crimson sunsets frozen in snowfields. That is the Mongolian girl who only fell in love with Tigis for one night of blood. Tigis' dark eyes seemed to be burned by the blood, as if a lavender light suddenly flickered. He will ha. Dana opened it and took out a folded drawing paper underneath. Then he unfolded the drawing paper gently, and the picture is a front hoof, a silver horse jumping in the air, and there is a line of small word, AMU Guling, written at the age of 17, Mongolia jumping into the blue sky. Shinjun. Tigis turned off the lamp, picked up the painting, and in the dark, he went back to the fireplace and sat down on the sofa again. He is no longer. I must look at that painting again because the image of galloping horses on the screen has been deeply engraved in his hard heart. At this moment, he just wants to be in the dark, silently with his long-fingered, bony hands. Touching that painting is like touching the soul of a son affectionately. And his hand movements are so gentle as if he is afraid of breaking a piece of dry skin. Red leaves. Son, your soul should be blazing, for you. Mother's blood is so red. General Tigis in the dark, silently talking to himself. Note Yuan Hongbing, Mongolian, means eagle.